Survival. Oh my god. This is it. This is the big moment. I've been talking about this for so long now. Last like 3-4 episodes at this point. Aizawa-san. There it is. They'll believe you soon enough. He's calm. Oh. He touched it. This is Rem. Oh my god, it's happening. Oh, he's holding it. It's like a domino effect now. L, come on, come on. Put it together. Oh no. Oh no. L, don't let him touch it. There it is. Oh, look how tall she is. L, don't let him take it. No, L. He took it though. Okay, L noticed that for sure, right? He's back. He's back. He's back. Ah, I'm so surprised. There it is. Oh! Here it is! So it's Ryuk's book, and he's dropped it. Right? I mean, he could see him anyways, but... No. Yeah. There it is. That's the copy she gave to Higuchi. Nicely done. So he did have a profile picked for this new Kira. Oh my god, he's back. Yeah, but he made sure to switch it so... And he'll lose all memory. There it is. Oh. Ah, that's why he's holding on to it and writing the names in. But if he's holding it and Higuchi dies? But how? Holy shit. Dude, Light Yagami is back. Unbelievable, this guy. Blood? Oh, Oh, ink.
八神さん、樋口を車へお願いします。
You know, I've got to say, I'm a bit surprised by this.
科学分析とかしたら何か出るだろうか。
八神くんらしくないですね。科学なんて超えてますよ、それは。
There's that fake life, the fake laugh. Oh my god. That scene of the memories coming back to him? Incredible.
一番長い40秒だ。
Oh, that was the return of Kira. Ownership of the book. Great symbolism. Or imagery, at least. I mean, Rem's there now. All of them can see her. But Light has ownership. That's the crucial point. He was holding it as Higuchi died. Aizawa-san. There's the rules.
How to use. さらに裏表紙の方の How to use。このノートを刻む役などして使えなくすると、それまでにノートに触れたすべての人間が死ぬ。
本当ですか、相沢さん。
そうだ。こういう掟があれば、父さんたちにノートを処分され、
I was gonna say,
記憶がなくなることもない。
ここに嘘のルールを書いても、じじいに
fake
怒られる
rule.
わけな
Yeah,
いよな。
that didn't sound right. Old man.
僕も死神見たいなんて触らなければよかったかな。
それではどういう操作になっているか、松田だけがわからない。
That's so interesting, isn't it?
それでもいいのか。
いえ、僕もみんなと同じ立場で操作したいです。はい。
このノートに名前を書き込んだ人間は、最も新しく名前を書いた時から13日以内に次の名前を書き込み、人を殺し続けなければ自分が死ぬ。
ってことは、これでライト君もミサミさんも完全に白ってことですね。
ああ、確かに50日以上監禁され、今も監視下にあるライト君とアマネ、2人がキラなら今生きているはずがない。
よかったですね。
But L knows it can transfer though.
ノートは他にも人間界にありますね。
さあ、あるかもしれないし、ないかもしれない。
もし他のノートが存在していたら、すべてのノートのルールは同じですか？
無駄だよ、龍崎。このルールはレムからは絶対崩せない。
ああ、同じだ。
そうですね。
Oh, so if Misa goes up, if he tells Misa to go dig that up, she'll see Ryuk, the return of Ryuk most likely, right?
申し訳ありませんでした。
Huh.
よかった。
ああ、これで僕とミサは 100%
I mean, L
白だ。
clearly isn't 100% convinced yet, but
死神によって書かれたルール。これは
like, how do you?
僕の作った嘘のルールによって龍
I
崎
mean
は手立てを失った。お前は僕の作ったルールに平服し、新世界の神に逆らおうとした罪で死ぬんだ。
It's insane how quickly I've already kind of I'm annoyed by someone's attitude again.
監視カメラで見られていたとしても
Oh, is this it? This is it, isn't it?
映らない。ミサ、今から言う場所に埋めてあるものを
Oh my
絶
god.
対誰も見ていない時に一人で掘り出してくれ。
記憶戻ったのね。
Yeah. Nicely done though. Like he wanted to separate her from Rem. There it is. And that should bring back. Come on, show yourself.
ライト、思い出したよ。
それと次に僕に会った時、ノートの切れ端を自然に触れさせ
So you
て
can see Ryuk.
これに従ってくれたら、僕は天音ミサを一生愛す。
ダメだよ、ライト。名前なんて覚えてないよ。一日何十人、何百人の名前と寿命が見えてたんだもん。どうやっても思い出せない。
やっとこっちに戻ってくれた。
The homie Ryuk.
そんなに美味しい？
ああ、人間界のリンゴはジューシーっていうの？
The return of Jushi.
私と目の取引して。
お前一度レムと取引してるんだ。
And those years don't come back.
半分にした残りの寿命をまた半分にしていいんだな。
That's gotta be one of the reasons he wanted to switch them.
私覚えてなくちゃいけない名前すっかりと忘れしちゃってさ。もう一回見てこないとライトに怒られちゃうもん。
まあ、俺はいいけど。
リュウク、なぜミサにつ
Yeah.
いている？
Now she's gonna figure it out.
ミサの寿命がさらに半分に減っている。まさかリュウクと目
Yeah,
を
she was not gonna allow it, right? The reunion.
久しぶりだね、リュウク。
Are you not entertained, Ryuk?
ライト、ごめん。リュウが秀樹の名前覚えてない。どうしても思い出せない。でも、リュウクと目の取引したから。
すべては計算か。
バカ、そんなことしたら寿命が。
いいの。ライトの役に立ちたい。
L? Yeah? I've gotta say, I'm a...
Misa.
Whoa, great
今
shot.
の僕は君と長く理想の世界で生きたい。そういう気持ちなんだ。
ライト、嬉しい。
二人で犯罪のない優しい人間
Kind
だけの
people.
新しい世界を作っていこう。
Whoa. Wow. Wow, there's a lot to unpack there. Right then, how about that? That is an excellent episode. I mean, that's a bit of an understatement. That's a thrilling episode. That's one of the best episodes of the series. I mean, that's pretty much a given, right? Given the magnitude of the things that happened in this episode. It's a phenomenal episode. One of the best. I'd say it's easily top 3 of the series, right? Top 2. It could even be the best of the series, really. Yeah, you know, it could be. It could be. And it's, you know, it's such a phenomenal episode and a thrilling one because it is, you know, the main aspect of this is the return of Light Yagami, right? Revival, as it was titled. And again, the moment I read that, it became clear, okay, it's happening. At some point, it is probably going to happen. And yeah, it didn't take him long. You know, he slotted right back into that old Light Yagami almost immediately, right? Instantly. You know, right at the end there, you see him back to his usual manipulative self, right? He's already putting things into motion or continuing on this crusade, right? And you see that he's even imploring Misa to, you know, continue on this crusade of theirs, right? He's, you can see, again, like I said, manipulative, right? It's right back into it. And you see that he's doing quite a number on Misa at this point in time. I almost said Mikasa again. But yeah, you see he's right in there. He's already, you know, he's got the claws right back in there. And yeah, you know, he's imploring Misa, right, to, you know, continue on this crusade of theirs. You know, in that sense, is he essentially kind of alluding, or, you know, is this alluding to her essentially starting up these Kara killings again, potentially, right? Because, you know, he made it clear, you know, let's continue on this path and live in this ideal world together. And you see that Misa is right back in there, right? She's right back in the clutches, right back in that net. Now, of course, you know, it was established a long time ago that Misa doesn't care. You know, she's totally open to this. She wants to be used by Light. It's an obsession, right? It's beyond just love. It's an obsession for Misa. And of course, you know, Light, the moment he realized he can take advantage of this, he started that process, you know, long before any of this happened, you know, back in his room. It was a similar ending here as well, right? That, you know, I've seen that a few times now, him hugging Misa, and then, you know, the camera kind of shows you Light, and he's just got that look in his face as he's hugging Misa. Same thing happened here. That shot, though, that shot of him hugging Misa and Ryuk, that ominous presence in the background, right? Love that shot. It's got to be one of my favorites of the entire series so far. It's a gorgeous frame. Yeah, it's a standout frame of the series for sure, right? It's like a reunion of sorts. You know, Kara 1 and 2, and then, you know, Ryuk's back in the picture as well. And of course, you know, super excited, super nice to see Ryuk again. he brings a different sort of energy to this dynamic, right? So it's good to have him back, to have his presence, or have him around now. And of course, now both Light, Yagami and Misa can see Ryuk, right? Though of course, the big thing about this, or the really crucial point about this, is the fact that Ryuk is attached to Misa now, right? And then Rem is attached to the other Death Note. I mean, essentially, she's attached to the whole task force, right? Because they all saw her, right? They all saw her. And yeah, I've been talking about that for a few episodes now, the potential of, the task force members touching that Death Note. It turned out the entire task force ended up touching the Death Note because it became quite clear, right? Like I mentioned in the last episode, it created quite a scene. It had the potential to create quite a scene, and it did. And, I thought it was really clever, as you see Chief Yagami, right? The first one to see Rem, and of course, he's absolutely just scared, petrified at the sight of this monster, he called it. And then, of course, Mogi comes in, right? And Mogi takes the Death Note. So I thought it was a really clever progression there, right? To show that it's quite clear that it's because of the Death Note, right? And Chief Yagami put it together, like right there, then and there. So, that took out any notion of, oh, let's figure out why Chief Yagami is starting to see this monster all of a sudden. No, none of that. They right then and there, they just put it out there. And Chief Yagami himself said it appears that, if you touch this notebook, this monster appears to you. And of course, Matsuda made that joke about, oh, maybe I shouldn't have touched the Death Note. But yeah, I thought it was interesting that, to remain in unison and to be on the same page. They all did end up touching the Death Note, right? So they could see this, god of death, Shinigami. It's really quite crazy, the situation it's at this moment, right? You have the task force at HQ, and there's a goddamn Shinigami just chilling there, just in the middle of that situation, right? Now, of course, they clearly skipped a bit of a getting used to portion of this, right? You can see that they are a bit more comfortable around Rem at this point in time. Clearly, they've talked, they've talked a bit for sure before it kind of jumped to this scene, because you can see it's kind of like business back to usual, right? You see L is doing his thing, you see Light is doing his thing. Ayazawa is back in, super nice to see Ayazawa back in, and it was a really great moment to see him. You can see that he was quite happy and proud to be able to help Chief Yagami, and he called him Chief again, even though that's not the official rank. He's always going to be the Chief to them, right? And he's always going to be the Chief to me as well. Now, that final scene again in the lobby, it's an interesting one, really interesting one, because you see that L is certainly watching them, right? L hasn't given up. Come on, no chance he's given up. But once again, much like the whole captivity portion of this, before the whole Yotsuba Corporation arc, he had no choice but to release them, right? That didn't change the fact that he still believes that Light Yagami was Kara 1 and Misa was Kara 2. He just kind of had to let them go at that point in time, right? Unfortunately, something similar has happened here, right? On even a larger scale, right? On a more definitive scale. I think he still firmly believes that Light Yagami pulled something off here, right? Yeah, he still believes that Light Yagami is Kara and that Misa is Kara number 2. He's essentially said as much, right, in this Yotsuba Corporation arc. He straight up even told him at one point, I was correct in deducing that you two are Kara 1 and 2, but something's happened and that persona has kind of changed, or it's kind of left you, right? And then there was that moment he was kind of dejected and kind of depressed for a little bit, and of course there was that fist fight that happened because of that. Something similar happened here. You see he is a bit dejected, right? But he's really calm and he's still quiet, right? He's not, I feel like he was keeping to himself, but I feel like he's got, the gears are turning, he's got a lot of things to think about. I still firmly believe, he firmly believes that Light Yagami is Kira and Misa is Misa number 2. I think that's never changed, right? And, you know, again, this goes back to that notion a few episodes ago. He posed that hypothetical to Light. He gave him a straight up answer, right? Because that was a different Light Yagami. That was Light Yagami not under the influence of the Death Note. And the answer he gave him was, yes, it would be Light Yagami's choice to give up those powers, right? If he did indeed have them. Again, the hypothetical, right? But, you know, going back to the lobby, right, downstairs, Light and Misa, you see that L is watching. Now, you know, I think there's something quite interesting here, because the one thing that L, he's like an eagle, right? He's got a sharp eye. He notices things and he picks up on subtle changes in demeanors and attitudes. You see, you know, now he sees on the live feed that Light Yagami is showing quite a bit of affection towards Misa, right? Quite a bit. You know, he's hugging her. He's got his hands on her shoulders. Again, affectionate physical behavior, right, around Misa. Yet, you know, for these past few months, as he's been cuffed to him, he's seen Light Yagami be really standoffish and not reciprocate all that affection to Misa, right? Yet, look at this, a sudden change, and he's seeing this. He's seeing Light Yagami be affectionate all of a sudden, again, after this whole incident, you know, after they've let Misa out. And, you know, I feel like he's not going to let Misa back in. No chance L is going to let Misa back into that HQ, right? Because, you know, even though I said that, you know, it was kind of like he had no choice but to let him go and uncuff Light and, you know, and kind of release Misa, I think he also did it because he is trying to get Misa out of there as well now, right? And no chance he's going to let her back in. Into, you know, that area upstairs, essentially, right? So even though she does have the Shinigami eyes, I don't think it's going to be just as easy as her, you know, coming up to say hi for good, you know, good old times. Oh, hi everyone, task force members, hello, you know, I've missed you. No. I don't think it can be just that easy, right? No chance. So I think it was like a double thing here. It served multiple purposes. Of course, you know, you have the entire task force who's convinced at this point because of these fake rules, and those fake rules, I don't know about that, man. You know, like, how's L supposed to counter that? Like, he has to just, you know, he just has to look at those rules and accept them, you know, because he, as far as he's concerned, these rules are made up by this supernatural being that that up until recently they didn't even know existed, right? There were some suspicions and some talk of it, but now he knows for sure. But, you know, making up rules, I don't know. It just doesn't seem fair. I mean, I know. It's a bit naive to say, oh, it's not fair, but, you know, this is not just some, you know, competition to see who comes first place and second place. This is a life and death situation, and he's trying to kill L, right? And L is trying to catch Light. But I don't know, just the notion of him taking pride and kind of boasting about, oh, you've gone kind of soft, or he didn't say that, but he said he's lost his edge, right? He said that about L. I felt that it was kind of strange that someone this proud, someone that has this type of ego on him, you know, this Light Yagami, the Light Yagami I've known for long chunks of this series, I find it strange that he's boasting about this almost, you know, the fake rules or my lies kind of, you know, dulled your senses, or, you know, you're kind of made you lose your edge. I don't know. That's my take on it. But of course, at the end of the day, he's trying to kill L, right? So, and, you know, they've shown that he's not some, you know, again, this is not that Light Yagami. This Light Yagami is down to do anything, essentially, you know, to get L. I'm just saying, I just didn't like that notion, you know, because you can't counter that. You just have to accept it as the rules. And, you know, for long chunks of this series, the one thing that was just against L, that he simply could not counter or have even the chance to counter, is the fact that there's something supernatural attached to Light Yagami and his powers as Kira and the killing capacity, right? There was no way for him to know that, right? But yet just recently, he found out about all of this. And again, I feel like in the long run, that might be a mistake as well. That's a big risk Light Yagami took, you know, by essentially letting it leak out there that Shinigami do exist, right? And again, the whole concept of Death Note and how you kill through the Death Note, you know, the entire task force knows about that. So, you know, it's a calculated risk, essentially, I think, because, you know, even though he got his memory back, that's not the end of his plan. I feel like there's still multiple moves left here to Light Yagami's plan, because, you know, one you know, crucial part of that plan was separating Rem from Misa, right? And I feel like the fact that the task force sees Rem, that actually might have been part of his plan as well, right? And of course, like I said, he's had this looming presence above him, you know, not Ryuk. Ryuk is more of a, to him, more of a friendly looming presence, right? Ryuk is on his side, essentially. You know, at this point, you can't say that Ryuk is completely neutral, right? You see that he does kind of, he enjoys Light Yagami's company. He enjoys Light Yagami's you know, antics. So he's more than happy to, you know, kind of help Light out every now and then, for sure. I mean, he straight up just, you know, wrote those fake rules into the Death Note, right? So that's, you can't really say he's neutral at this point in time. So, you know, that looming presence, I mean, Ryuk's not a looming presence. The looming presence is the Shinigami Rem, and it's been this presence for some time now, since Misa came into his life, right? And since he found out how, you know, protective she is of Misa. So that's been a problem since then. So, you know, this isn't, you know, this whole grand plan of his masterstroke, and it was, you know, it was certainly a masterstroke, no doubt about it. That was one of the reasons this episode was so thrilling, to see this come, you know, come into full motion, and see it play out, to see how he finally hoped to, you know, get his memories back and finally, you know, return to form. You know, the Shinigami Rem, that's been a big problem. So I feel like, yeah, there's still multiple, you know, portions or moves left in this grand plan of his. And I feel like he might target Rem next, right? And I feel like, you know, I feel like some of the things he did here, you know, taking the risk of letting it leak that, you know, Shinigami do exist, and that the Death Note is something, you know, real. And, you know, it has quite the potential to kill, right? I feel like there's got to be a purpose behind that as well, you know, to take such a massive risk. Because, you know, first half of the series, earlier on, he was so careful about, you know, hiding the Death Note and the existence of the Death Note and Shinigami and all of that, right? And that was one of his concerns, you know, once he did come into contact with Misa, that she's really careless, and she was really careless. And, you know, being attached to Misa, or, you know, again, that chaotic presence coming into his life really made things difficult for him, didn't it? And it kind of led to a domino effect. One thing led to another, and Misa ends up in captivity, under surveillance, and he had to put this grand plan into motion. Now, you know, Rem being here at the task force, that could serve a purpose for sure, you know? And you see, again, he's manipulating Misa, you know, and he's imploring her to kind of, you know, let's continue on this crusade of ours, right? He's including her into this. And in that sense, it kind of felt like he's almost kind of pushing her, imploring her to continue the Kira killings, right? If you're going to continue that crusade, right, of making that ideal world together, and, you know, spend the rest of your life with her together, you know, you're going to have to start doing the killings again, the Kira killings, right? So is there a possibility that he actually wants this to coincide with her release, right? Is he trying to put a target on Misa's back again? Now, the reason I say that is because, again, it goes back to that Shinigami Rem problem. You know, the one thing they've established, Rem, you know, she'll do anything. She'll do anything to save Misa, right? She's so protective of Misa. That was so clear from day one, essentially. Is he trying to put a target on Misa's back now? And is he trying to force Rem into action? Because, you know, a few times now they've established how exactly you go about, you know, causing the death of a Shinigami, right? And is this his, you know, is this his plan to kind of force her into action, right? If you get Misa out there again, and the Kira killings start again, and, you know, this again coincides with her being released from surveillance, the target goes on her back again. And then if the target is on her back again, then you have Rem, who's going to be concerned about Misa again, right? And, you know, here's a crucial thing. I think this is quite a smart move by Light, you know, to have Rem attached to this Death Note, and that Death Note is in that HQ, right? So she's around HQ, around the task force. So she's going to hear the things they have to say, right? She's going to hear L's conversations and the other task force members. And if Misa comes up again, and if Misa becomes a target again, she's going to be there, you know? And, you know, unfortunately, the thing is, L does not know that, you know, this Shinigami, this god of death, Rem, is really attached to Misa. You know, he has no chance of knowing that. None of the task force do. So it's not like they're going to be careful around this Shinigami, right? They'll discuss things openly. Or maybe not, actually. You know, maybe not. Maybe L is going to be careful and he might not discuss things. I mean, it's a Shinigami. You can't really... I say that, but you can't really hide from a Shinigami, can you? So anything to discuss is going to be in front of Rem, essentially, right? So yeah, you know, putting Rem in that HQ, multiple purposes to that as well, right? So essentially, to get rid of Rem, he's going to have to force her into action. And again, to get rid of a Shinigami or to cause the death of a Shinigami, you need Rem to essentially save Misa, right? And give up her life in the process. So that's been the setup, you know, since Jealous was introduced, or, you know, showcased in a backstory flashback. So yeah, you know, that's been established for some time now, and if he's going to do it, he's going to need to force Rem into action. Now you see that Rem had quite the reaction to seeing Misa, right? And seeing Ryuk attached to Misa, and then of course, you know, clocking that she's taken the Shinigami Eyes deal yet again, and she was really concerned. You know, now that could be one of two things. Just concerned because she does care for her quite a bit, that her life gets kind of chopped in half again, or is it more than just that? Because, you know, Rem looked quite concerned. Could that mean the new lifespan? Is there something that, you know, I'm not able to see yet, but Rem, I mean, I see it, but, you know, I can't decipher it, but, you know, Rem can. Is she seeing something new here because of the situation and how it's played out? Has she seen, you know, first of all, of course, you know, half her life span again, you know, being cut, but does her new, you know, lifespan, is that something really concerning? And could that be the reason she's so concerned? So yeah, you know, let's keep an eye out on that. And yeah, you know, let's see. And it was clear that even if Misa asked Rem, she was not going to do the Shinigami Eyes deal again, right? And again, that's one of the reasons perhaps Light wanted to separate Misa from Rem. There's more than one reason. There's multiple reasons for separating them, but this might have been one of the reasons. And, you know, I think Light probably even knew that this is probably how it's going to play out. That Misa is so, you know, concerned about potentially disappointing Light, or letting him down, that, you know, she would instantly take the Shinigami Eyes again, you know, because she couldn't remember L's real name. So, you know, knowing Light and knowing how he's able to anticipate things, and that's one of the things that's really highlighted here, right? His incredible long-term planning, right? Yeah, you see it at play here. It's quite impressive. It's quite impressive. So, you know, I feel like he probably knew that Misa is going to take the Shinigami Eyes, or at least there's a really high chance at some point she was going to take those eyes again, right? And of course, Ryuk, he had no problem doing it. And actually, it even looked like Ryuk knew that he knew to expect this. You know, he said, oh, it looks like things are going according to plan. So it feels like, you know, maybe Light kind of briefed Ryuk. And you can see another, you know, reason he had Rem in there. He wanted Rem in there is because, you know, he needed Rem to kind of play along. And he knew Ryuk probably wouldn't play along, right? But Rem is there because she thinks anything she does here is to, you know, kind of help Misa or her cause. Sorry, not her cause, her case in this, right? She's trying to get her out of trouble. So And they already showed us that she is, you know, she's totally down to play along. Not, you know, even though the rest of the task force is pretty much convinced, right? Again, the fake rules really played a big part in this. You know, in Light and Misa's favor. That was the whole point of this, right? Again, that was one of the reasons he needed the English Death Note, or the Death Note that had English on it, to go to HQ, right? Again, you know, there's a lot of reasons, a lot of different reasons he wanted this copy of the Death Note to show up here, right? And that copy to not show up here. Like I said, you know, L was really quiet, keeping to himself, kind of dejected, but still kind of keeping to himself because he's got much to think about. There's so much new information for him to process and really think about, you know. And it's clear that he's got suspicions about these new rules as well, right? Because they're so convenient, right? They're so perfect in kind of lifting all suspicion from Misa and Light. So of course, you know, L is suspicious of this because it's all just so nicely packaged, right? But the thing is, you know, the Shinigami, he has no idea the Shinigami is kind of on Misa's side. So, you know, the Shinigami told him, yeah, all copies of the Death Note, there's a lot of them in the Shinigami realm, but all of them have the same rules. That's the problem here, right? That's the thing that L simply cannot do anything about unless he just doesn't buy it. And of course, you know, since this is the original copy Light used, it's filled up quite a bit, right? So, you know, that could be another reason he wanted this copy to be at HQ or in the task force's possession, right? As evidence, essentially, because, you know, all of those names can now kind of be, they can be attached to Higuchi, right? All of that can be put onto Higuchi. Though, you know, how about the handwriting? You know, Light's handwriting and Higuchi's handwriting, that's got to be a bit different. I mean, not a bit different. It's going to be different. So how about that, right? How about that angle? Now, you know, I'm not even sure if Light left all those pages in, you know, all the names of the people he's put in there since the beginning of the series, or since he got the Death Note. Yeah. Remains to be seen, but, you know, yeah, that would make sense. You know, have a full catalog of these names and kind of put that all on Higuchi. Yeah, that makes sense. So at this point, L is up against it for sure. You know, he's essentially the last one who's still on the case in terms of, you know, not buying it at all that Light and Misa are clear or in the clear. And I love that, you know, visual representation of this as he's, you know, building. He's got the packaging of like those Jello. I think it might be some sort of jelly or something. But, you know, he's got those little packages, the empty packages, and he's kind of stacking them, right? It even kind of looked like you know, Rem's arm, right? As he's about to put that last piece on top, right, he stops, he hesitates, and he pulls his hand back. I thought that was some great representation of him being kind of like, no, not just yet. You know, he's still on the case. You know, again, like I said, he might be the only one who still firmly believes this. But, you know, that being said, like I mentioned, if Misa goes on the offensive again, starts getting those Kira killings going again, it's not going to take long for the rest of the task force to you know, kind of get back in there. But of course, you know, the one difference here is that now there's a notion that, you know, Kira's powers kind of go from person to person, that persona moves on, right? So it's not a guarantee that the target falls exactly or firmly or instantly on Misa's back, right? But, you know, her release, I think this is crucial here, and I think that's the reason I think Light might have wanted this as well. You know, her release potentially coinciding with Kira killings starting up again, you know, you can't ignore that. And, you know, I feel like the task force might not ignore that either. And, you know, I feel like timing is crucial, right, for L. He notices the timing of things. And again, you know, I mentioned he notices subtle changes, right? He noticed the change in attitude. I think he noticed the change in demeanor in Light Yagami. And like I mentioned, you know, the behavior in the lobby, all of a sudden he's so affectionate. You know, the funny thing is, the first time he noticed that change was once going back a bunch of episodes, you know, before the whole Yotsuba arc, or it was the beginning of the Yotsuba arc, essentially. You know, he was really puzzled by the change in attitude, right? He wasn't used to this Light Yagami, right? He had a lot of time. He spent a lot of time and had a lot of moments with the Light Yagami. All of us know, right? The audience knew at that point as well. And the Light Yagami L knew, right? From running into at the school and other experiences, right? At the cafe and all of that. He noticed a distinct change in him once, he released him from that prison or that captivity, right? And he came on to the task force. He noticed, right? There's a lot of those moments you see L kind of just in the background looking at Light. And then there's that inner monologue of him really thinking about the changes that are happening here. Now, it's kind of come full circle. Now he must be noticing the change again. Now he's kind of going back to the Light Yagami he knew, right? The manipulative Light Yagami, that psychological profile he had for such a long time for Light Yagami or for Kira that ended up fitting Light Yagami like a shoe. And then on top of that, a few episodes before this, or, before all of this played out, he already noticed a change in Misa. So he was already on red alert about that, and that was just one of the reasons he chained her up in the last episode, right? He kept her out of the situation, and now she's out of the HQ as well. Again, I feel like that served multiple purposes for L and for the task force as well, right? On one side, he had to kind of let him go, and on the other side, it was a good move to let her out of there. He wanted her out of there, right? Given how things are playing out at this moment in time and how he's noticed the change in her demeanor and attitude after coming back from the Yotsuba Corporation, and now, skip to this episode, he knows that Higuchi was able to kill through the Death Note, right? And he did have some sort of, supernatural presence attached to him. Now, as I am speaking of L finally finding out about the Death Note, that was the one thing, that was the one unknown that he just didn't know about. Now he knows. Now he knows, and that's a big deal. Let's go to that chopper scene. It's an incredible scene. It's one of my favorites of the entire series. First of all, L coming into contact and picking up the Death Note. And, I loved how they used silence in these moments inside this chopper, right? As he slowly turns his head and sees Rem in the distance. And notice how his reaction is so much more calm at this moment in time. And he's actually seeing proof of the Shinigami, and he's seeing, his fellow task force members kind of freak out. So it's the real deal. It's confirmed. The god of death, it's right there. But he was really calm about that, right? He didn't freak out. Remember how he freaked out and fell off his chair? That really out of character reaction to, just hearing the term Shinigami. But here he is. Just really calm, really composed. Although, of course, he knows this is coming as well, right? Chief Yagami and Mogi, unfortunately, they had to be the first two to see this, right? And so, yeah, their reactions of being absolutely just scared shitless, understandable. So maybe, L was kind of prepared for this as well. He was prepared to see something quite strange, something quite, supernatural. And, he already had those notions in his mind, right? Again, he kept kind of name dropping Shinigami in the last episode as well. But yeah, it feels like at this point in time, he was almost expecting some sort of supernatural thing to come to light. And in that sense, even though there's a really dramatic something really dramatic happens once Light touches that Death Note, but I feel like something really dramatic happened for Light L as well, by touching the Death Note. By getting the confirmation, by finding out that yes, they do exist, and yes, you kill by writing names in this Death Note, that immediately, his gears start turning. And I love that scene as he's going through all the things he's kind of come across, right? So it was kind of like it made so many things possible. It put so many of these things he knows into context just like that, right? All of a sudden, Higuchi being in that car, having a normal back and forth conversation makes perfect sense, because now he knows it was this Shinigami Rem. Things like Misa's hair strand kind of moving, right? And that was Rem, but L didn't know that at the time, but he noticed it, right? Now he has context. He can attach Rem to that as well. Or actually, yeah, see, that's a problem. That's the thing that's missing here. He has no idea that Rem that actually there's only one. That's the thing. As far as L and the task force knows, there's only one Shinigami. This one. I mean, there's more. You know, she mentioned the Shinigami realm, but as far as they know, here on Earth, she hasn't mentioned. I'm going to assume Rem hasn't mentioned that. Yeah, there's other Shinigami just lurking about on Earth. So, you know, I could see L connecting that, you know, strange occurrence of her hair strand moving to, you know, being Rem, the Shinigami, that you're not able to see unless you hold the Death Note, right? That copy of the Death Note. And then, you know, there's things like, and this was actually shown in this scene. He's thinking back to, you know, Misa talking about, or, you know, Kara number 2 at the time, talking about Shinigami. Let's show each other our Shinigami, love at first sight, all of that just instantly starts to make sense to him, right? And right then and there, he said, this is not finished. There is at least another copy out there, right? So yeah, you know, as far as L is concerned, no, this is not finished at all. And in that trance almost, as he's thinking of all of these possibilities and all of those things just coming together, you know, he doesn't even realize that Light has taken the book. And, you know, I kept, you know, you saw my reaction. I was hoping he doesn't let him take the book. And, you know, in my discussion for the last episode, I said, could, you know, L figure it out on the spot and, you know, not let Light touch the book just in case, right? Just keep it from him. But no, he was so lost in his thoughts that he didn't even realize that Light took it. But then, you know, that moment as he realizes that it's gone from his hands and he looks over. Oh my God, incredible scene, right? To first of all see Light just petrified. He's kind of like in this moment of shock. And again, you know, the absence of music, complete silence, that was so effective here. But then, you know, as it goes into that scene of Light kind of screaming out from that silence, incredible scene. You know, I love the use of music here. I love the use of flash imagery. It was so effective. So effective. It really is such a great scene. You know, it's a thrilling scene actually, because now you know it's a return. This is it. All that planning, you know, all of that, all of the hypotheticals I've had, you know, all of the questions I've asked, you know, how did he plan this out, right? How did he expect to, you know, return? This is it, you know, the big moment. And like I said, it lived up to my expectation and lived up to the hype of this potential masterstroke. And, you know, the change back to Light Yagami, you know, Kara Light Yagami was definitive instantly, right? And again, just like it was definitive, the change once he relinquished the Death Note in captivity, that was a definitive change. This is once again a definitive change back to that Light Yagami, right? The Kara Light Yagami. You see that look on his face, that evil, smug look on his face. They brought back the red eyes. Again, that's more of like a symbolic thing, right? But yeah, all that came back. Now, you know, I felt like surely, you know, L noticed. I mean, he did notice that Light freaked out much more than the rest, right? So, and you see that he is watching him. He is watching him in the chopper. But then the next part of his plan comes through, right? He has to kill Higuchi on the spot, essentially. And yeah, you know, he happened to be holding the Death Note at the time. Now, this is, you know, I mentioned this before. This part I found a bit far-fetched. You know, the notion of, I mean, yeah, you know, the notion of hiding that piece in the watch, yeah, that's cool. That's really cool. But, you know, the notion that he's able to do that, you know, prick himself, you know, draw that blood, use that blood as ink, right? And, you know, you have to keep kind of dipping back into that blood, you know? It's not a pen, so it's not like you can just dip it once and, you know, it's going to be more than enough. He's going to have to go back to that prick a few times to get blood, right? So he's doing that, right? And at the same time, he has to hope that L doesn't notice any of this. And yeah, L doesn't notice any of that, right? Yes, you know, he's kind of concerned at the moment about Higuchi and, you know, this Shinigami, god of death that's standing there. But, you know, right before that, L was quite concerned. He was watching Light. So, and even beyond that, you know, the fact that he's able to write the name, he's doing it, he's got his hand behind the book, and he's doing it like that, right? He's not really able to see it, is he? So I don't know. To me, that felt a bit far-fetched that, you know, that L wouldn't notice, You know, that whole time, L didn't notice that Light Yagami is up to something. Now, of course, it is behind the book, but I don't know. It is what it is. But you can see that this was part of his plan. That, you know, of course, once he loses his memory, he was telling Ryuk essentially, you know, once he loses his memory, you know, and that's the type of person I am. And I found that interesting that even as Kira Light Yagami, he knows that once he loses his memory, he's going to be, you know, part of, or he's going to, you know, try his best or become part of the task force, and he is going to hunt down Kira, you know. So that notion, just that, even the Kira Light Yagami knows that he, you know, the other Light Yagami, the Light Yagami before the Death Note, he would, you know, hunt down Kira or help in hunting down Kira, because that's the type of person I am. That was so interesting. That he understands that, he knows that it's going to be a different Light Yagami again. But yeah, you know, that was part of his plan, to become part of the task force. And then, you know, again, it was handpicked, right? Not Higuchi specifically, but the type of person Higuchi is. He told Rem, you know, find someone like this, someone who's essentially going to abuse the Death Note, right? You know, essentially making it much easier, or making it easier to, you know, catch him, because he was going to slip up. That type of person was going to start slipping up, and given how good they are, you know, sooner or later he was going to be caught, and he was. And you know, it appears that Light was hoping that they do grab that notebook, and it was part of his plan, clearly, and he accepted that, yes, you know, the task force members might be grabbing the book as well. And actually that was part of his plan, because then of course he's got the English copy, he's got the fake rules in it, he's got Rem attached to it to, you know, kind of explain those rules, and, you know, establish that, yeah, those are the rules. Yeah, it was all part of his plan. It was part of his plan because in having the task force come in contact with the Death Note, he would also get the chance to come in contact with the Death Note as a member of the task force. Now, speaking of Light's plans and, you know, this long-term master plan, the forest. It goes back to the forest. Now, you know, as you know, a few episodes ago, I had quite a bit of fun going down a rabbit hole after, you know, something kind of triggered a question, right? And, you know, I started hunting down some mid-episode cards, and yeah, one thing led to another, and it became quite clear that, you know, there was a misdirect. Now, it was quite nice to see that, you know, a lot of that was pretty spot on, right? A lot of that was spot on, so that was nice. But, you know, it was really nice to see it play out, because I didn't know how he did that, or how the switch happened, right? So they showed it. They actually just, you know, go right back to that moment. I think I had a lot of that figured out, but I think there's a few new things that came out of this. Now they go step by step, don't they? And, you know, I made a note of this because I really wanted to, you know, go through it step by step once again. Now let's go through the steps. Let's go through the switch, you know, the intricate steps that kind of play out here. Of course, you know, Ryuk didn't quite get it, and if, you know, from the looks of it, even Rem didn't really quite understand the reasoning for all of this, because, you know, she was shocked to see Misa attached to Rem, or Ryuk attached to Misa, right? So yeah, you know, Light of course knew the reasoning for all of this, but, you know, they didn't. But they played along. For Rem, it's to save Misa. For Ryuk, it's all for entertainment, right? And he's promised more entertainment, so he plays along, all right? So, first of all, he relinquishes ownership of the Death Note that Misa originally had, right? Originally belonged to Jealous. Jealous died, saving Misa, or giving up his life, essentially, or, you know, prolonging her life, meaning he had to die. Drop that Death Note. And again, that actually plays into the mid-episode card of this episode as well, right? It is tough to see a Shinigami that is possessing a human die or pass on, but if they are to pass on, their Death Note remains in that human world, right? So there it is, you know, they're again alluding to the death of a Shinigami, or the passing of a Shinigami. And, you know, I spoke of the Shinigami Rem problem for Light. So yeah, you know, you can't really ignore these mid-episode cards. They really do kind of allude to a lot of things. You know, it actually helped me out quite a bit in that theory session I had, going down that rabbit hole. And of course, Light had ownership of that copy because Misa relinquished ownership of that copy. And at that time, it was in Light's possession. So that automatically becomes his copy of the Death Note. And he had 2 copies at that point in time. So you see him relinquish ownership of this copy back to Rem. And notice how, there's this great transition from the chopper as Light Yagami is holding up that copy of the Death Note, the one that has English on it. There's a tight shot of that copy, the cover of it, and it transitions into that flashback, or that the flashback, and you see it transition into the cover of the other copy, right? So he relinquishes that, and ownership of that returns to Rem. And then one of the crucial moments of this switch, intricate switch thing he's doing here is, once he's relinquished that copy to Rem and it belongs to Rem, he then asked her to give it to Ryuk. Now that copy belongs to Ryuk, right? Meaning Rem is not attached to that copy anymore, and Ryuk is. And of course, as shown in this episode, that copy, Misa digs up that copy and Ryuk is attached to that copy, right? So that's a big moment. That's a crucial moment of this. And then he asked Ryuk to drop that to the human world, right? So a human can pick it up. And that human being like Yagami, he picks it up once again, right? Yes, Ryuk was a bit confused that it's just gone in a circle, but that circle made it so Rem isn't attached to that copy anymore. And like he said, it's going to be a few later down the line. So again, his plan, gaining back his memories is just one part of the plan. It's going to continue, right, in these next few episodes. Now, of course, I figured out a few episodes ago that there is something going on here that, I don't have the complete picture, but it was really exciting to see that scene play out. So like I said, there's a few different reasons he wanted to switch these copies, right? First of all, separating Rem from Misa. That was important, really important. And you see in this episode just how important that was. And it's going to be crucial, it appears. As he said, it's going to be useful down the line. So yeah, that was one of the reasons. Another reason being he needed that English copy, or the one Ryuka initially prepared in episode 1, right, and dropped to the human world. He needed that copy to find its way to the task force, right, because of the fake rules, right, and he needed Rem attached to that copy because he knew Rem is going to play along because she believes that this is to protect and save Mikasa. And also beyond just having Rem attached to it so she can, kind of confirm that these rules are the rules, even though they're fake rules, there's more to it than that as well, right? Because you have Rem, a god of death, a Shinigami, who is completely on Misa's side. You have a Shinigami inside the HQ. L is there, right? These other task force members are there. She's there, right? And if they end up becoming a threat to Misa once again, like I mentioned, right, he might force Rem into action, because that is a problem, and that's one of the next big problems he has to take care of. He can't go on having this ominous presence looming above him in not Misa, in Rem. So he's going to have a plan for that for sure. So yeah, that does make me uneasy that you have a Shinigami who is so devoted to Misa, and she's in HQ, right there. The task force members, L is there, Chief Yagami is there, Watari is there, all of them are there, and she's there too. So yeah, that is certainly concerning for sure, but I feel like that is also by design, that it might have been part of Light's plan to, put her in there, right? And like I said, the task force doesn't know, L doesn't know that this Shinigami has an attachment to Misa, right? And, if Light kind of gets Misa to become active again, and that kind of starts putting a target on Misa's back again, yeah, it starts getting really muddy. It starts getting really crazy, doesn't it? So yeah, I'm quite excited for the next few episodes, in the next episode even, to see how L proceeds now, to see how the task force goes from this point on. L firmly believes that there's more to this. He believes there's certainly another copy out there. Again, getting this confirmation provided so much context to all of this information he had before. Right now he can connect the dots, or he did connect the dots right then and there, and he knows this isn't over, this isn't finished, there's another copy out there. Quite excited, and yeah, I enjoyed this episode quite a bit. One of the best of the series. Top 2, top 3, could be the best of the series as well. There's a few contenders for best of the series, so I'll say it's easily top 3. Right then, if you enjoyed that, consider dropping a like, consider dropping some comments, give me your thoughts. If you do enjoy the content and you're not subscribed, consider subscribing and helping out the channel and help the channel grow and help more Death Note fans find these. If you're interested in early access or full length to this episode, consider checking out the Patreon page. Please remember, it's just an option for anyone who's interested in content beyond the scheduled content. And if you are, check out the link in the description, check out the link in the pinned comment, right? And perhaps even just check out plans for anime on the channel, for the rest of 2021 and then beyond. And in terms of the next anime being lined up, Shingeki is about to end soon, so Vinland Saga is going to replace Shingeki on Fridays. So, I'm really excited about that. And, the replacement for Death Note has been decided for some time now as well. It's going to be Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. Now, initially, my plan was to have it replace Death Note. Once the final episode goes up on YouTube, I'll go right into episode 1 of Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. But, I'm actually planning on bringing that in much earlier, because there is still quite a bit of Death Note left, right? So I just felt that I want to bring in Full Metal Alchemist a bit earlier than that. Right then, that's about it for this episode, a thrilling episode, right? The return of Light Yagami. Yes, I was almost instantly annoyed with some of his attitude again, all of that, I'm going to be this god of this new ideal world, all of that. It was still exciting to see this Light Yagami return. And, in that sense, it was a bit of a sad moment as well, because it's like the definitive death of the Light Yagami that wasn't under the influence of the Death Note, right? To many, that is Light Yagami. And this Light Yagami is a product of, the influence of the Death Note, right? So yeah, certainly a sad moment, because that's the last time I'm going to see that Light Yagami, right? But a return to form for Light Yagami, and things just really heated up in this episode, right? A lot of new possibilities came about. So I'm excited for the next episode for sure. So thank you for joining me. Thank you for your time. And I hope to see you again soon for the next one. Until then, take it easy.